I'd been thinking about Robert Frost's poem, The Path Not Taken, and at the same time musing about this blog I've got to do, and thinking of countless ways into it and not being able to decide. I'm sorry to confuse high poetry with the prosaic. Anyway, I'll begin. In 1967, I was crossing Canada with Laurence Olivier and the National Theatre Company, and we had a day off in Toronto, and it seemed to me a wonderful opportunity to go pop over and see New York and come back before nightfall. Like a kind of dream. New York was a dream anyway, so why not have it as an actual living dream in a few hours? So, with a couple of people from the company, we got a plane and we landed, and then we took off again immediately, again, on, you could in those days, on a helicopter. We got a helicopter across to Manhattan and landed on the Pan Am building, the roof. But first we'd seen the spire of the Art Deco Chrysler building going past the window. I mean, near enough to touch it seemed, and at eye level. And we landed, took the elevator down, and went round a couple of corners, is it 2 or 3 corners? And went up on the elevator to get to the top of the Empire State Building. Completely redundant thing to do. We'd seen all that already, but we were green. And then we went down again, and we walked down the avenue, down Fifth Avenue, of course, and found ourselves soon in Greenwich Village, with street names, not 56th and 4th and all that. And that was good. Street names and bricks, and an authentic Italian place with an authentic Italian pizza, which I've never tasted the like of since. And then we went to Battery Park and Wall Street and decided to go on the Staten Island ferry. And then we had the impression that we'd landed in New York on an ocean liner from Liverpool, and were seeing it as for the first time by sea. When we walked up another avenue, I forget which one it was, until we got to the Lincoln Center. And it was a day when there was no performance there, I think. Oh, we saw the 2 Chagall murals. Nothing like that, I thought to myself. Nothing like that. I didn't really approve of Chagall. I thought he was a bit... But still, Chagall. And they're much better than anything in the Festival Hall in Britain. Anyway, we saw round 3 auditorium. And then we went up to the park. I don't have a clear memory of the park. I have a memory of the park on autumn day, a fall day, in the early 80s when we were playing Nicholas Nickleby, Emily and I. Emily is just over this, off the shoulder. Yes, we saw it in the middle of the fall with the most wonderful colours, and I was convinced it was infinitely superior to Hampstead Heath. We must have taken the right path. I must have been a toddler in an innocent world of shades of black and white and grey when I was taken to our local cinema for the first time. We went in the cheap seats, I remember, being on the section on the right-hand side there where we always sat. I could take you to the seat if the cinema hadn't been demolished in 1962. I remember crying because some domestic scene, I still see dimly, upset me. But as a solitary film fan, I remember walking out of the cinema on American air and only gradually coming down to the cobbled street earth on the way home. New York was already a fantasy to me from the films I had seen in the 40s and 50s. And so to see the actuality in a one-day dream, one-day daydream, just a few hours was perfect. I seem to remember in cinematic black and white Bing Crosby in a street of brown stone houses on a cold winter night with a brown paper bag of groceries held to his chest. I was thrilled when I held such a bag to my own chest for the first time years later. Films of the 50s had taken a grittier tone. In fact, I saw On the Waterfront when I was 17, in my first year at theatre school. And I have just this moment watched a clip on YouTube. Brando and Eva Marie's Saint, in that scene where he takes her glove and puts it on, sitting on a child's swing in a recreation ground. Not a part of New York I recognize, I thought. I've only seen the film once in the intervening years, since 1954, but the style just now, the atmosphere of the scene, was so familiar, not in any way a period piece either. No, so immediate, as it struck me as a teenager 60 years ago. But I hadn't remembered that as they moved towards some railings, there is the Empire State Building, seen through a light mist over the water in the distance. It is rather neat, in view of the King Lear, My Perfect Mind connection, that in the repertoire of the parts I first played in New York was the Fool. Talking upon the waterfront, whether it was a storm at sea in 1974 that prevented the set and costumes arriving on time for our first night of King Lear at BAM, or corruption in the docks, I don't know. I always believed in the storm version of the story. But the upshot was we played the show on a bare stage that first night in our own clothes. I had a red scarf which I wore loosely tied round my jeans waist, and 6'3" Robert Edison wore his rather impressive sheepskin coat as the king. Given the fact that the human brain is the most complex organism in the known universe, it was our minds that were the most important part of the imported cargo of the company. The set and costumes, when they arrived, seemed an encumbrance. It is to be hoped that our set for My Perfect Mind arrives at East 59 East on time. It has been with us almost since we began devising the show. It is plain and simple, but its encumbrances and obstacles are a vital part of the path taken.